thank the organizers, the judges, the EAA, and Airbus for putting this great event together. My innovation is of the widget family. It is a seat cushion with 2 vibrating actuators, little buzzers in it, that help you keep the ball centered. So I've loved aviation all my life. I've been a long-time enthusiast, attendee, member of EAA. I learned to fly in 2012, and I now fly a Vagabond, and I'm building a Sea Ray amphibian. So many people have written a lot and built a lot of inventions and done a lot of work in trying to reduce fatalities associated with stalls and spins. And so the general theme of my talk is that the turn coordinator, although I know a lot of people love it, is not a great instrument. And what is wrong with the turn coordinator? The biggest problem is that it requires that a pilot look at it to be effective. The visual system is already busy when you're flying. It's especially true when you're task saturated. And it's really important to have your eyes outside when you're maneuvering in the pattern or at low altitude. The turn coordinator is a passive instrument. It doesn't alert you to hazards like an audible or stick shake or stall warning. So my hypothesis is that providing additional coordination feedback via the pilot's sense of touch will increase the pilot's ability to recognize and correct uncoordinated flight, reducing incidents of loss of control due to uncoordinated stalls and saving lives. And so this was an Innovation Prize finalist back in 2017. Since then, I've made changes to the hardware, changes to the software, changes to the enclosure, and done a lot of testing. So I think by now we all know what coordinated flight is. It's not necessarily true that the airplane's nose is pointed the direction it's flying, but it's desirable. And the big problem with uncoordinated flight is that if you stall uncoordinated, there's an increased risk of spinning. So how do we measure coordination? The turn coordinator is basically a bubble level, and it's measuring the local acceleration, where the load vector of the airport is pointing. And so the ball position is directly related to the lateral acceleration of the aircraft, and we can measure that with a computer. So what does the Buzzball do? It senses the ball position and activates one of 2 vibrating buzzers in the seat cushion to notify the pilot that the ball is out of center, and so the pilot can just step on the buzzing ball to regain coordination. So of course there's a computer inside of it. This is built on the Arduino platform. There's a Arduino Mega 2560 main board, inertial measurement unit board that's got a 3-axis accelerometer and a 3-axis magnetometer, a motor control board, and then there's 2 additional boards that are mainly for research and development. They probably wouldn't be in a production version of this. There's a second IMU board, which also adds a solid-state gyro, and there's a data logging board, which lets me collect data on a 1/10 of a second basis to figure out what was going on afterwards. The Actuator is a General Motors product. It's the haptic seat motor. It was used in the lane departure warning system on a lot of Chevy vehicles. Total bill of materials here, there's about $260 of components inside the prototype. It could be a lot cheaper in production. And almost everything in there is Amazon Prime, so by the time you get back from Oshkosh, you can have everything waiting at home to build one. The software is written in C. The algorithm samples the accelerometer at 400 hertz. The main loop runs at 10 hertz. It converts the lateral acceleration to a ball position. It filters that with a 1/4 second low-pass filter. If the ball is outside of a deadband, then one of the 2 buzzers activates. And so the deadband that I've been working with so far is 3/8, the ball being 3/8 out of the center of its cage. And so there's a graphical depiction of what that looks like there. I also have a slightly narrower deadband for a slower filtered version of the signal, so that if you're help the pilot maintain better ball position in steady state cruise flight. I've added since the last time a spin mode, where if there's a high sustained yaw rate, then the buzzer intermittently buzzes on one side, and that tells you which rudder pedal to use to recover from the spin. Everything gets logged, and all the code's available on Bitbucket if anyone wants to download it. So I've done a lot of testing. It's 150 hours so far. It's all in one aircraft though, but a bunch of different people have flown it, and it's about 100 hours or so with the latest version of the software as is. Here's some data from coordinated turns. So that bottom graph is showing heading over time, and the top graph, the red line, is the ball position, and the red dotted line shows where the limits are. And so you can see there's, at the top and bottom here, there's little red and green flashes showing when the buzzer's going off. And so there's an occasional momentary buzzes at the start and the end of a turn, but generally they're lasting half a second, 1/4 second, and they're very quickly corrected by the pilot noticing that. And again, this is how far the ball is out when it buzzes. So here's some uncoordinated turns. So we start with a skidding turn to the right, and you can see the ball is activated continuously during that time, and skidding turn to the left, same thing. Here's some more uncoordinated flight. Basically here I'm doing some slips, and then I'm flying around for a while with my feet on the floor. And so at the start I rock the wings without touching the rudder, and there's a sustained ball indication in either direction. I do some slips. I do some cruise with my feet in the floor, and it's fairly slow cruise, so it looks like I needed a little bit of right rudder there occasionally, and it occasionally went off to tell me that. And then some gentle S-turns, again with my feet in the floor, and you can see that there was a lot of adverse yaw in my aircraft, and I hadn't really realized how much I used the rudder until I made myself fly with my feet in the floor and see how much it went off. So the big challenges that we've run into, there's a ton of vibration, and I've spent more time trying to mitigate effects of vibration than anything else. I've got software filtering, I've got mechanical filtering. I switched to a different IMU sensor last year that ended up not working well, switched back to the original one. Another big issue I've had is that my aircraft is very badly magnetized, and so it's very hard to make absolute heading measurements. So when I go back to look at the data logs, I wrote down, did this north, 90-degree turn to the west, and I'm like, wait, I was never going north. So that's been a big challenge. There's some other issues with sensor calibration and stuff that haven't been a big problem. So just to sum things up, the Buzzball has a potential to reduce fatal stall spin accidents by making pilots aware of unintentional, uncoordinated flight before they stall. Anecdotally, it seems to have very much helped me maintain coordination unconsciously. I took it out for a while, put it back in, and things were a lot better. And it's important to convey critical feedback actively, not passively, so it can break through distraction and mental clutter and not just be solely oral or visual, because the sense of touch is underutilized. It's very easy to install. You set the cushion on the seat, you plug it in a cigarette lighter, or it could have a battery. With a glass cockpit, you could very easily integrate it into that, and it's very low cost. You could build it for much less than I did.